Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Am I the Jerk? Our first post is by Educational Bad. Am I the jerk for not defending my wife wanting to attend a funeral with our baby, thus causing her to miss it? Trigger warning. Infant death mentioned. My wife and I have a 6-month-old baby girl. Due to postpartum anxiety, which she is being treated for, my wife struggles with leaving our daughter with anyone outside myself or my mother who lives with us. This hasn't been an issue thus far, and as I said, she's in therapy, so little by little it's been getting better. Unfortunately, my nephew, who was also 6 months old, passed away a few weeks ago. He had been in poor health since birth, but it's still obviously devastating for the entire family, especially my brother and sister-in-law. They held the services the following weekend. I was in consistent contact with my brother, and we were discussing the funeral. He said he knew it was a lot to ask, but could we please not bring our daughter? I said I completely understood and didn't even intend to. 1, in my opinion, babies do not belong at funerals. 2, this is a funeral for a baby of a similar age. Why would one want to bring up that reminder? My brother said he knows how my wife is about leaving the baby, so they understand if she can't come. But my wife became irritated when she found out I didn't defend her. She reminded me that she doesn't trust anyone to take care of the baby outside me and my mom, who obviously have to be at the funeral. She doesn't want to miss it either, but also won't agree to leave the baby with anyone else. We have several family members on her side that we are close to, as well as good friends who also have kids. I said even if she just went to the service and not the gathering afterward, that'd just be an hour. She said no, she can't handle the thought of leaving her with anyone else. I said that's understandable, and that clearly my brother and sister-in-law would rather her not come if it means not having a baby at the funeral. She continued to complain. Finally, I said she has 2 choices and she needs to make one. I don't care which it is. I won't hold it against her either way. 1, either allow someone else to watch the baby for an hour. 2, stay home with the baby. She says that I'm not even pretending to be on her side, and I said I'm not, because this isn't even about us. My wife ended up staying home with the baby. When my mother and I returned later that afternoon, she shut us both out. Eventually, she calmed down, but she has made comments here and there making it clear that she feels I should have tried to convince my brother to let the baby come. Am I the jerk? Our next post is by Family Falling AP. Am I the jerk for telling my sister it's her own fault her family is a mess because she wanted to adopt? My sister Lucy, 38, has always wanted a big family. She and her husband Tom, 40, had their son Logan, now 9. But due to complications, Lucy couldn't have more kids. Lucy was devastated. About 3 years ago, she and Tom decided to adopt. Tom never outright said he didn't want to go through with it, but it was clear to see he didn't care one way or the other and just wanted Lucy happy. Logan said he didn't want a sibling. Lucy brushed over all these concerns with the "they'll get on board eventually" attitude. Long story short, they were eventually matched with boy Jack, who is now 11. Lucy said they all bonded, but Jack had behavioral issues, and whenever I saw them, I picked up on the fact that over time Tom seemed to be getting less and less keen, and many times when it was just adults he commented on his worry that Jack had latent issues because of his traumatic past. Lucy adored Jack and rubbished these concerns. I brought up Tom's hesitation, but Lucy said it was just taking longer for him to bond. They officially adopted Jack about a year ago, and since then things have fallen apart. Jack's behavior has either got a lot worse or Lucy wasn't speaking about it as much before, but it's clear Tom is at his wit's end. According to Lucy, he works late constantly, and whenever Jack has a tantrum, he helps Lucy calm him down, and then takes Logan and leaves the house. Logan now hates Jack and won't play with him, which causes more issues, and he's started to act out. He spent his last school holiday with my family and is set to spend Christmas with us again because even the family therapist says it's good for him to have some space. Having seen this all unfold has been heartbreaking. Tom and Logan look more miserable every time I see them, and though Lucy would never admit it, she does too. Whenever I speak to her, she talks about how hard it is but always has Tom and Logan at fault. She has never taken any accountability for the fact that she didn't listen to anyone's concerns. She called me a couple of days ago to discuss plans for Christmas and when Tom would be dropping Logan off at my home. She again started ranting about Tom has basically shut down at home with her and Jack, and how she thinks he's going to leave. She was calling him every name in the book, and then started saying she was disappointed that Logan doesn't love Jack, and she can't believe she raised a bully. I lost it. I told her the really bully was her. She bullied her family into adoption as a form of wish fulfillment, and Tom shouldn't have indulged her, but most of the blame falls on her for destroying her family. She screamed and cried and eventually called me evil and hung up. My parents are now saying I was a jerk for telling her that, even though we all think it, but I think she needed to hear it and stop blaming her own child for being unhappy living in the chaos she created. Edit. For everyone saying I said or implied that Tom is blameless, I didn't. I said to Lucy that Tom shares the blame, but I do think most of it lies with her. Who I don't think has any blame, no matter how she's tried to place it on him, is Logan. Our next post is by Western Letterhead. Am I the jerk for not taking the baby as soon as I was asked? Our daughter is 7 weeks old. My wife is a full-time stay-at-home mom. Both of us want this until our daughter is at least 5, starts school, and can openly communicate with us. I work full-time making $25 an hour, and while the pay is good, I've been looking for something a bit better, just so we have more fun money, basically. I get home from work today at 3 p.m. and she asked me to take the baby. As soon as she asked, though, I got a phone call that I suspected was from an interview, so I said, "Hold on a second," and took the call. It was an interviewer and he wanted to do an over-the-phone interview and asked if it was a good time. I said yes. About 40 minutes later I go back in and my wife is cooking dinner with the baby strapped to her chest. I said I could take the baby now, and she said, "Looks like I've got it," and dismisses me completely. She then turns off the stove, dinner was done, and goes into the bathroom with the baby and takes a shower with the baby. I go in and say she's being ridiculous and that I had to take a phone call, and she snapped. She said, "I take phone calls while holding the baby all the time. I cook, clean, shower, poop, and shave while holding the baby. Your excuse is pathetic. Am I the jerk for not taking the baby immediately? Extra info. Our daughter just had her vaccinations. She's fussy. Putting her down in her crib would have led to screaming because she was already unsettled, so my wife would have just grabbed her back out anyhow." Our next post is by Aggressive Court. Am I the jerk for flipping out after he ate my son's food? I don't think I'm a jerk, honestly. However, literally everyone I've spoken to is against me on this because it's just food. I would never make someone feel like crap over food, blah blah blah. So here I am. 30F, I have a 13-year-old son named Colby with my ex-husband. Last year, my son desperately wanted to go to Japan because his father currently lives there, and my son had been there multiple times for visits during the summer and fell in love with it. He begged me to let him live with his dad for a year, and while it broke my heart and gave me extreme anxiety, I agreed. I couldn't say no. He went there for a year and came back home in August of this year. As many could imagine, Japan has much different cuisines than the US does, and while my son wouldn't complain about anything I put in front of him, he did make a few comments about missing Japanese dishes. So I went through a few websites, got a hold of his dad, etc., and I was able to get some of the ingredients and recipes shipped out to me. His favorite one is some type of noodles with a dark brown spicy sauce. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but since it's his favorite, I have his father send me out the noodles and sauce so my son can prepare it for himself at home, as well as buying him the fresh ingredients needed. Well, me and my husband's daughter, 9, asked Colby the day before yesterday if she could have some of his noodles. He said no. He only said no because he's made the dish for her before and she wasted the entire thing because it was too spicy. So she doesn't like it, and therefore he said no and reminded her that she didn't like it. Before my daughter could even respond, my husband pipes up with, "Give her some, there's no reason why you can't share." So I stepped in and said no, and that she's already had it, and threw it in the trash, and this is his food. He doesn't have to share his food, he just kind of walks off. Well, this morning my son asked where all of his noodles were, 4 packages, and my husband says I ate them. I asked why the heck he would do that, and he said, "Because I wanted to." To me this felt like a big FU, because I told him my son didn't have to share his food, so I did lose it. He did this on purpose. I just know it. I told him he was a pig on a power trip and he should be ashamed of himself for eating my son's food. He says I'm ridiculous and I'm a jerk for calling him a pig because he's overweight, simply because he was hungry and wanted to eat. Everyone else says I'm a jerk too, as I said. Am I the jerk? Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.